Bobby Darin's empty house has a sad story that not many people are brave enough to tell. It was much harder for the celebrity to live a simple life than the media made it seem. He had a loving wife and children, and his untimely death was a shocking event. What went on behind the scenes and how much money did he leave? Get ready to find out the terrible truth. To begin, let us talk about Bobby Darin's private life. Bob Darin and Connie Francis, two growing stars in the music business, had an amazing meeting in 1956. George Sheikh, who was both of their managers, set up their meeting by getting Connie Francis to record a song that Darin had written. Working together for work purposes led to a bond that quickly grew into something much stronger. People who were close to Darin at the time say that their relationship grew into an intense romance that took up a lot of their time and feelings in the beginning. Even though they had a strong bond, the couple had to deal with a lot of problems, mostly from Connie Francis's family. Her folks didn't like Darin, which made their relationship less stable. This criticism wasn't a small problem. It was bad enough to make Francis's life situation very different. When Connie got home from a date with Darin one night, she was met with a hard truth. Her folks had put her bags together and left them on the front step of their house, so she had to leave. This event shows how strongly her family was against her, and it also shows how social and cultural pressures often made relationships difficult back then, especially for people who were in the public eye. Even with these problems, Darin and Francis's relationship did not change. Darin asked Connie to marry him almost right away after all of this happened, showing how much he cared about her, but the suggestion made things worse between her and her family. When Connie's dad found out about the engagement, he became angry and threatened. He walked into the Jackie Gleason show practices with a gun and planned to fight Darin, which was a shocking scene. This could have turned out very badly, but Darin was able to get away by jumping out of a window, just barely escaping a fight. Not only does this show how dangerous things were, but it also shows how far Darin was willing to go to protect Connie and their relationship. After the scary night, the pair talked for a short time after the show, but the pressures and risks of their relationship made them break up. Still, their feelings stayed strong even after they broke up. For the next 4 months, they kept up a secret relationship by writing each other love letters. These letters kept their bond alive behind closed doors. For the rest of his life, Darin carefully kept these letters because he loved them so much. After he died, the letters were put up for auction, but they were finally returned to Connie Francis. This showed how important their relationship was even though it ended in tragedy. Over the next few years, Darin and Francis run into each other several times while working on different TV shows. But the passion of their first relationship never came back. They never got back together romantically. When they saw each other, it was polite but far away, and they both knew what had been but could not be again. In 1960, Connie had a very emotional experience when she heard on the radio that Darin had married actress Sandra Dee. She and her father were driving through the Lincoln Tunnel at the same time. She was devastated when she heard the news and later wrote about her despair, saying, "I wish that somehow God would cause the Hudson River to come gushing in and entrap us in that tunnel." This vivid imagery shows how deeply her heart broke and how much she felt like she had lost when she realized that they would never be able to be together again. Sandra Dee and Bobby Darin are said to have met on the silver screen, but their relationship was much more complicated than a standard Hollywood love story. They met in Rome, Italy, in 1960 while making the love comedy Come September, which came out the next year in 1961. Their lives came together in a way that would catch the attention of both Hollywood and the public during this European shoot. Mary Duvon, Sandra Dee's mother, was a big part of getting them together, which is interesting. Mary thought that her daughter and Darin might be a good match, so she told her to go on a date with him. Their relationship took off like a rocket after Mary Duvon gave them this push. Even though she was encouraged at first, Sandra Dee's feelings about Darin were complicated and mixed. Later, she talked openly about their relationship, which showed a lot about the man behind the public image. Dee told me that Darin was a sneaky, rude, and intentionally annoying person who was always trying to get people to respond. She said, "I don't think he went to Rome with the intention of marrying this new little Mary Pigford of Hollywood, This showed that Darin's intentions were not always romantic or clear at first. Directly, Dee said, "I didn't like this person. I just thought this is a conniving sob." Aside from the fact that he was rude, brash, and always trying to get a reaction, I didn't like this person. This quote shows the tension between them, which was a mix of attraction, frustration, and suspicion that shaped their relationship for a long time. Even though they had a rough start emotionally, they moved quickly in their relationship. When Darin and Dee got married on December 1, 1960, they became one of the sexiest young couples in Hollywood. They got married at the same time that both of their jobs were at their peak. For a while, they were seen as the perfect example of what it meant to be a Hollywood star in the 1960s. On December 16, 1961, their only child, a boy named Dodd Mitchell Darin, was born. When they had their son, it changed their relationship in a way that went beyond being famous and working together. Even though it looked like they were doing well and were happy in their home, their marriage was actually full of problems. People thought the couple was happy, but there were deep issues between them. Sandra Dee's earlier comments about Darin's personality hinted at ongoing problems. His brashness, his calculating nature, and the fact that they didn't understand each other emotionally all made their home life unstable. The marriage lasted for almost 7 years, but these stresses finally broke it down. On March 7, 1967, Darin and Dee got a divorce, ending a union that seemed so good at first. The breakup was a big turning point in Darin's personal life. It made public what had been going on in his private life for years. After getting divorced from Dee, Darin finally met someone new. He met Andrea Georger in 1970. She was a law secretary whose life didn't seem to have anything to do with Hollywood. Their love grew quickly, and on June 25, 1973, after living together for 3 years, they got married. His second marriage was calmer and more private than his first, but it was still very difficult. They split up just 4 months after getting married in October 1973. The short length of this marriage was mostly due to Darin's health problems getting worse, which were starting to have a big effect on his life. Life of Bobby Darin was full of amazing success and talent, but he also had to deal with major health problems that shaped a lot of his personal experiences. From the start, it was clear that Darin's body was weak. As a baby, he was very weak and sensitive, which was a sign of the health problems he would have for the rest of his life. He had a lot of health problems when he was young. The worst was rheumatic fever, a dangerous illness that started when he was 8 years old and came back over and over again. These events left a permanent mark on his body, especially on his heart, which is still hurting today. For young Darin, rheumatic fever was especially bad, especially in the middle of the 1300s, before antibiotics and more modern heart treatments were widely used. It meant he had to go to the hospital a lot and had physical limits when he was growing up. His heart valves got inflamed from the disease, which later led to a heart that was badly weakened. This condition had a huge impact on his health for the rest of his life. Even with these problems, Darin didn't let the fact that his health was weak stop him from pursuing a hard and demanding job in show business. Still, he was aware that his health was bad and carried that information with him. Since he was a child, Darin was very aware that his life might not last as long as most. This knowledge made his goals and way of life feel more urgent and intense. He was brave and often went beyond what people might have thought someone with such serious heart problems would do. He may have been so excited about life and determined to do well in singing and acting because he didn't know how long he had to make his dreams come true. Being aware of his own death gave his acts and public persona a more moving quality. He was charismatic and full of energy, but deep down he knew how fragile life is. As Darin's career grew in the 1950s and 1960s, his health continued to be a major worry. Even though he had a busy schedule of shows, recordings, and movie parts, his heart condition put invisible limits on what he could do. People around him became even more aware of how bad his illness was in the last few years of his life. During this time, he often needed extra oxygen, both at home and before and after his stage and movie roles. This need says a lot about how bad his heart situation had gotten. It made it so hard for him to breathe and keep up his energy that he had to use oxygen treatment to keep performing. Even with these problems, Darin never stopped being professional and dedicated to his job. People often only saw the polished, energized actor and didn't know how hard it was on his body behind the scenes. He looked like a lively and charismatic star, but he was actually dealing with a major long-term illness that limited his physical abilities and required constant medical care. Bobby Darin's health crisis took a critical and ultimately tragic turn in 1973. It was the end of his long fight with a weak heart and other serious health problems. The direct cause of his decline was a serious medical mistake that could have been avoided. Because Darin has a heart condition, he forgot to take the antibiotics that were suggested before a routine dental treatment. Because of this mistake, bacteria got into his bloodstream and caused infective endocarditis, a systemic illness. The infection attacked one of Darin's artificial heart valves very badly, making his already weak heart even weaker and starting a chain of problems that quickly got worse his condition. Because Darin's heart had recently undergone major surgery, this infection was even more dangerous. In January 1971, he had an open heart surgery to fix damage done by years of rheumatic fever and its repercussions. 2 artificial heart valves were put in. These artificial valves were very important for keeping his heart working, but they also left him open to diseases that could hurt the soft tissues around them very badly. At the start of the infection in 1973, it was a direct threat to his life and the operation of the artificial valves. When Darin saw how bad his situation was, he went to Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles on December 11, 1973. The person was admitted for another scary open-heart surgery to fix and try to save the 2 fake valves that had been damaged by an infection. As the surgical team got ready for one of the most difficult and dangerous heart procedures that could be done at the time, the patient's stay in the hospital was full of worry and doubt. The careful surgery was done in the evening of December 19th by a team of 4 very skilled doctors. The doctors worked hard for more than 6 hours to fix the damage they did to Darin's heart. It was like a marathon of precision and endurance. In the early 1970s, open heart surgery was still a fairly new and developing field that came with a lot of risks, especially for people who had heart problems that didn't go away or who had active infections. Not only did the doctors have to fix the artificial valves, they also had to deal with the widespread infection and inflammation that was hurting the heart tissue. Even though the doctors worked hard and were very skilled, the surgery did not save Darin's life in the end. In the early hours of December 20, 1973, not long after the surgery was over, Darin passed away in the recovery room. He never came back to, and his death at age 37 was a terrible loss for his family, friends, and fans all over the world. His early death showed how fragile life was and how little doctors could do at that time, especially for someone who had been dealing with heart disease since childhood. Darin's dedication to others and his larger impact was clear even after he died. He wrote in his will that he wanted his body to be given to science so that it could be used for medical study. This choice showed a deep knowledge of how important medical progress is and a desire to help make progress that could help future patients with similar conditions. His body parts were taken to the UCLA Medical Center after he died so they could be used for study. This kind act made him famous beyond the entertainment industry and gave people hope that his sacrifice could help medical research and care. Bobby Darin's last days and death show how sad it is when someone is very talented but also physically weak. His career had been marked by an incredible drive to get past the limits of his weak health. But the effects of his heart problem that had been there all his life were too much for him to handle in the end. His death reminds us of how important it is for people with heart disease to get preventive care, how much better patient results have become thanks to improvements in heart surgery, and how real people's stories are behind the clinical facts. People who liked him looked at his homes after he died. There is a house in the Bronx in New York City. The Bronx is known for having a lot of working-class areas. His early years were shaped by a simple childhood in a small apartment in a less wealthy part of the city. There aren't many public records that list exact homes from that time, but biographical sources like Biography do. Com and IMDb give a very clear picture of where Darin grew up. A small, simple house that makes you think of the hard times a working-class family went through during and after the Great Depression. Darin was mostly raised by his grandma. He grew up in a strange family situation that would stay a secret for a long time. Darin thought that his grandmother was his mother, and that the woman he knew as his mother was really his older sister for a long time. This complicated family situation was carefully kept secret to protect him from the shame of being an illegitimate child, which was common at the time, especially in lower-income homes. The small room he lived in showed how hard times were for his family financially. The living conditions were basic, with little room and few comforts, but there was a strong sense of determination and toughness in the air. Darin has had a great love for singing since he was very young. He had weak health to begin with, but as a child he had rheumatic fever often, which made his heart weak and his body weak. He worked very hard to learn how to play the instruments. There were piano keys, drum beats, and guitar strings all over the small flat. Being good at music became more important to Darin as he got better at it. It was an important way to express yourself and a sign of hope when you were sick and poor. His ability to play many instruments such as the piano, drums, and guitar showed that he was naturally talented and had developed it through hard work and dedication. The Bronx neighborhood where Darin grew up wasn't very nice, but it was there that he learned to set goals early on. Being poor and living in a small space every day made him want to leave, to break free from the restrictions of his surroundings. Show business gave that escape artist a chance to get out of his situation, become famous, and make a lot of money. This goal wasn't born out of a sense of privilege, but out of a need. A drive that came from wanting to go beyond the limits that his birth and training put on him. Darin grew up in the Bronx, where he was exposed to a lot of different kinds of music and culture. This probably shaped his diverse style later on. He grew up in a place with a lively music scene that included jazz, swing, rhythm, and blues. Even though he came from a poor family, hearing so many different kinds of music helped him create his own sound, which later mixed rock and roll, pop, jazz, and folk. Splish Splash and Mac the Knife, his big hits, were the result of years of hard work, skill, and determination that began in that small Bronx apartment. Splish Splash, a catchy, upbeat song, and Mac the Knife, a sophisticated jazz-influenced song, both showed how versatile and popular Darin is. These songs not only made him famous, but they also showed how he rose from poverty to fame. Bobby Darin was at the top of his game from the 1950s to the early 1960s. A dynamic artist whose fame was rising thanks to hit songs and a strong presence in Hollywood. Darin and his first wife, actor Sandra Dee, lived in a unique and stylish home in the Hollywood Hills of Los Angeles during this golden age. Their home at 1,411 Rising Glen Road perfectly captured the spirit of the time and the couple's fame in the entertainment industry. The building of the house itself was a work of art, built in 1955 by the famous architect William Kreisel, whose work typified mid-century modern design. This style praised clean lines, living indoors and outdoors, and creative use of space. These traits reflected the laid-back yet stylish California lifestyle that was becoming popular after World War II. This luxurious 4,250 square foot home had all of Chrysler's signature design features. It had 5 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms, making it perfect for a famous couple with a lot of social events planned. One of the most noticeable things about the house was its famous butterfly roof, which had a unique V-shaped shape that made it stand out and also served useful purposes by letting in more natural light and airflow. This roof line became a symbol of mid-century modern design. It gave the house a futuristic, sculptural look that still draws people in today. The dramatic roof was paired with large circular windows that let in a lot of light and gave a view of the Hollywood Hills. This made the inside feel like it was part of the beautiful outdoors in true California style. The uncovered brick walls inside the house added a warm and interesting texture to the smooth, open floor plan. This made the living room flow smoothly and was both elegant and casual, great for having friends over or unwinding after a busy day in the spotlight. The terrazzo floors made the room look more expensive and useful at the same time. Known for being long, lasting, and having a smooth finish that reflected the California sun and made the home feel bright and roomy. The outdoor area of the house was centered around a swimming pool that could be seen from several rooms inside the house. In the pool area, there was more than just a place to chill out. It was an addition to the living room that was made to hold parties, get-togethers, and casual moments of relaxation. A great addition to Darin's life as an artist who likes to party with friends and coworkers. Bobby Darin and Sandra Dee lived in this house in the Hollywood Hills from 1960 until they got divorced in 1967. During these years, the house saw the couple become known as Hollywood's golden couple. It was a popular place for celebrities and other important people in the entertainment industry to visit, reflecting the glitz and optimism of the 1960s. The house showed Darin's personal and professional style, which was a mix of charm, sophistication, and the joy of a man whose life was always in the center. After they split up, the house changed hands several times over the next few decades. The house was on the market for $689 million in 2008 and sold for $9,125 million. Jason Pomerantz, a famous hotelier with an eye for iconic design, bought the house and worked with famous designer Jim Walrod to repair it. They were careful to keep the house's architectural history while making it fit modern luxury living. Their work kept the mid-century modern style of the original building while making the home more useful and stylish for a new generation of owners. In the years between March 1967 and September 1969, Bobby Darin made a big move that showed how his personal life and career were changing. He bought a beautiful Spanish-style estate at 702 North Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills, which is a famous address that is linked to Hollywood royalty and high-class life. This move started a new era for Darin. It happened at a time when he was going through personal and artistic problems, like his recent split from Sandra Dee. The estate was a symbol of his success as an actor and Grammy-winning singer, as well as his desire to keep making art. The estate, which was built in 1922, was a huge 8,500 square foot home with both historic charm and modern conveniences that a big recording star would need. Classic Spanish Revival style was used in the building, with stucco walls, red, tiled roofs, row iron details, and graceful archways that gave the heart of Beverly Hills an old-world elegance. These style touches gave the house a classic beauty that made it a beautiful place for Darin to live and work during this difficult time. The estate had 5 large bedrooms and 6 bathrooms on the inside, making it perfect for Darin's family, friends, and coworkers. The rooms felt big and airy because of the high ceilings with beams, and the polished hardwood floors made the rooms feel stylish and warm. With its fine architectural details and high-end amenities, the house was both comfortable and impressive, fitting for a man at the top of his field. One of the best things about the house was the chef's kitchen, which was made to fit both everyday life and the socializing and hosting that was a big part of Darin's life. As a natural host, Darin often put together get-togethers where people could be creative and talk freely. This kitchen was the center of those events. The estate had a professional recording studio, which was a rare and important addition at the time. This studio turned into a safe place for Darin to work on his songs without being bothered by the things going on around him. Many years later, famous acts like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Ozzy Osbourne used the studio for their own recording sessions after it became famous over the years. This studio showed how dedicated Darin was to his work and how much he wanted to improve music production at a time when he was trying out new artistic ways. The property's outdoor areas were just as nice. They had a swimming pool, a spa, and a guest house. The perfect amenities for relaxing, having fun, and making friends and coworkers feel welcome when they come to visit. The house was more appealing because it had lush landscaping and outdoor living areas that made it feel like a private retreat in the middle of Beverly Hills. Darin was going through a tough time in his life during his stay here. When he and Sandra Dee split up in March 1967, that was the end of a chapter. His public image changed as he became more interested in politics and social problems. But the estate at 702 North Rodeo Drive became more than just a home. It was a place where he could be artistic and think about himself during a time of change. Noel Blanc, a famous voice actor best known for his work with Warner Brothers, bought the house after Darin sold it in 1969. Blanc owned the house until 1998 and kept it as an important Beverly Hills landmark. In 2011, the farm changed hands again. Takahiro Matsumoto, the guitarist for the famous Japanese rock band Bees, bought it for $64 million. This purchase showed that the estate is still appealing to creative and wealthy people. With an asking price of $8, the property's value and status have only grown over the years. $5 million in 2020 and a sale in 2023 for almost $11 million. These numbers show how much people still want the house and how luxurious it was for the people who lived there before Darin. During the rough years of 1968 and 1969, Bobby Darin went through a deep change in his personal life and art. These changes were marked by sadness, revelation, and reflection. After Senator Robert F. Kennedy was killed, Darin had a lot of respect for him and political hope for the future. He also learned that the woman he had always thought was his sister was actually his real mother, which changed his life in a big way. Darin wanted to get away from the chaos of being famous and living in the public eye. This trip took him to Big Sioux, California, with its rough and peaceful scenery. There, he adopted a simple way of life that was very different from the lavish and glamorous life he had known in Hollywood. Darin didn't want to settle down in a regular home, so he chose to live in an Airstream trailer, which is a small, mobile home that stands for freedom and simplicity. In a lot of ways, this decision was a sign. The sleek and simple design of the Airstream trailer was a refusal of the material wealth and fame that had shaped much of his younger years. It was a step back from the fast-paced nature of his work, both literally and figuratively. The remote coastal wilderness of Big Sioux gave him a place to be alone and think. From the busy city of Los Angeles, the rough cliffs, endless Pacific views, and quiet woods were a stark but inspiring contrast. According to Go Retro and Wikipedia, this was a time when Darin spent a lot of time alone and thinking. The privacy of the Airstream's isolation gave him time to deal with the deep personal discoveries and national tragedies that were weighing heavily on his mind. Robert F. Kennedy was killed. Darin was shocked and moved greatly by the death of John F. Kennedy in June 1968. He admired Kennedy's vision of social justice and change. These events, along with what he learned about his family's past, caused a shift in his world and artistic goals. The songs that Darin made changed a lot while he was in Big Sioux. He stopped making the popular pop and rock and roll songs and started writing folk and protest songs, which were becoming more popular in the 1960s because of the political and social unrest in the country. He recorded and released 2 songs during this time under his real name, Walden Robert Casado. Bobby Darin was born Walden Robert Casado in 1968 and made a promise to marry him in 1969. These pieces showed that he had become more honest as an artist and was dedicated to exploring issues like social justice, political action, and self-reflection. The album showed a more honest and raw side of Darin. The words and melodies were heartfelt and powerful, but not as commercially focused as his earlier hits. The simple life that Darin lived in Big Sioux was both a refuge and a way to clean up and start over. A trailer where things were limited and everyday life was boiled down to the bare necessities mirrored the process of letting go of false identities and past lives. During this time, Darin not only got back to the basics of writing songs, but he also rethought his job as an artist with a conscience. The peaceful nature and lack of people around him gave him the clarity he needed to make sense of his complicated personal history and change his job path. After going on this vacation for about a year, Darin came back to Los Angeles in 1969, feeling refreshed and ready to work in the entertainment business again on his own terms. The time he spent in Big Sioux was a turning point in his life. He dealt with pain and uncertainty there, but came out of it with a stronger sense of purpose and an honest art. In that remote coastal haven, the Airstream trailer was more than just a place to stay for a short time. As Darin broke away from the past and began his journey towards self-realization, it was a place where change could happen. What do you think about Darin Bobby? Please tell us what you think in the box below. We hope this video was helpful for you. Kindly click like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, glad you watched and see you in the next film. Thank you.